we're going to do tape number 3. We're still talking about, now we're getting into the wedding years, but here's tape number 3. Here's the view of the beach.
Oh, do you have a wedding
And you
picture?
have, I'll go get the wedding picture. And Grandma's running away on me. There's Mount Rainier. And here's the lovely view. Stalling for time since Grandma ran away on me. And so we'll just have to film. There's a lovely view. And we have Grandpa on the swing, but he lost his wife. So, but we're going to film both of them in just a second here.
Okay.
Alright, so now we're recording tape number 3. And where we stopped was, what do you remember most about your wedding day? So you guys can give some wedding stories. Dad, do you want to start?
I remember marrying my wife. That was the most important thing that happened the whole day.
That's a pretty good one.
Well, let's go back a day to the rehearsal dinner. And so we brought Rob's mother out for the wedding, of course, and at the rehearsal dinner, my aunt and uncle were there, and we had pheasant all glass, whatever it is, pheasant.
Under glass.
Yeah, pheasant.
Harriet and Todd paid for the whole thing, where it's under a clay thing. You have to break this clay thing to get into it. But anyway, they served wine with the meal, and Bob's mother doesn't drink at all, and so she said, "What am I going to do with this glass of wine?" And Harriet, my aunt, who's a very jovial type person, leaned over and said to her, "Just throw it under the table." And speaking of...
So did you do that?
No, she just left it on the... Or maybe she asked the waiter not to give her any. But and on the wedding day, it was in Tacoma, Washington, on July 6th, 1966. And during the ceremony, it was at Mason Methodist Church, little Stu, my nephew, who was 4 at the time, was going to bring the ring bearer. And so we'd lightly sew the ring on the pillow. And so he started down the aisle in front of my dad and me. And all of a sudden, he got scared. So he threw down the pillow and ran up to his daddy, who was one of the groomsmen, and just stood beside his daddy. And I said to my dad, "What do I do? What do I do?" And he said, "Just grab the ring off the pillow." So I reached down and I just grabbed the ring off the pillow and just carried it down myself. So it turned out all right. It turned out all right. It was a pretty wedding. It was all in
nice.
pink flowers, pink bridesmaids all dressed in pink, and it was very pretty. My
Was it
mother...
a soft pink or a bright pink?
Soft pink. My mother had done a fabulous job planning the whole wedding because I wasn't here. I wasn't available. I was in Germany just enjoying myself, and she went through the what she did in 6 weeks to put together a wedding in 6 weeks.
And then she did the reception afterwards.
And she did the reception at her house. I mean, she booked...
So at the Tacoma house, you had people come over afterwards?
Yes, afterwards. Baked and cooked, and she was exhausted. And then they saw us
She
off
was
at the airport.
She was a cookie grandma too. I forgot about.
Yeah,
That's
she
right.
was the
so
cookie
she was,
grandma. Yeah.
So she made lots and lots of cookies.
Yeah, she was a great mom and a great grandmother. Yeah, so that's what I remember about the wedding.
And then you guys didn't go on a honeymoon.
Nope, went right to
Had to
the
go right
fort.
to work.
And so
We did take one a year later, but it was up at his sister's house by Niagara Falls, so we actually stayed with his sister for our honeymoon. But we did get to Niagara Falls, which was very pretty.
When did you guys do that?
About a year later.
About a year later.
Yeah, so that was nice.
And you got married July 6th
Mm-hmm.
of 68.
66.
67. Yeah.
Yeah, because you were born
I was born
67.
So that'd be bad. Wait a minute. So a year later, Niagara Falls. Oh, so that's where I came from.
Probably.
All right.
I just kept thinking I had the flu. I told Daddy, Dad, I have the flu. I feel sick every afternoon. And my dad said, "Well, do you think you could be pregnant?" No, I'm not. He said, "Are you sure?" No, I just have a flu every afternoon. I just have the flu. It was Robbie flu, little Robbie.
Any other wedding stories that you can think of?
Well, weddings.
Probably such brief.
Yeah, we were only home 12 days. That was it.
Yeah.
Quick. It was just in and out. Verdine had a shower. Lots of people had wedding showers. So
All
it
right.
was nice.
And so we talked about Dad at the GAO. We already did that.
And what about the first year in the Army at this Army barracks? And Daddy was a very shy man. He's just a very shy man. And so I said, well, shouldn't we be talking to our neighbors or something? You know, we lived in these dormitory
Officer quarter type
yeah.
things?
And so he said, well, what'll I say? And I said, well, talk about the weather or something. And after that, he said, do you think I should join Toastmasters? That's an excellent idea. He joined Toastmasters and was in it for 12 years.
I remember Toastmasters, yeah.
It just did a marvelous thing for him. Yeah, it was really great.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first 5-minute speech I had at the end, they said, well, you gave a great speech, but you gave it a minute and a half.
I know.
And it's supposed to be a 5-minute speach? Talking really fast?
Really fast. It's the same way you did when you had your first baby, McKenna, and the nurse said you're supposed to count to 10 when she's breathing. It was during labor. You know, we count
I was doing
1, 2,
too fast.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and finally the nurse said, "Oh, whoa, calm down. It's okay." The Williamses are fast people.
That's right. So that was Fort Lee, Virginia.
Yep.
That's where I was born, so I know that part.
Yeah.
And
$7.50.
So very cheap.
Oh, it was a hard labor. I was out in the hallway. I was
Ugh.
out in the hallway. They didn't have enough beds. Really. And the doctor said I wasn't trying hard enough, and then he found out later I had my coccyx bone, my tailbone was
Blocking it.
blocking it, and it had to crack before any baby could come out. And
hurts my knees.
yeah, he kept making me feel bad. I wasn't trying hard enough, but just the way
Wasn't your fault.
No.
So
And you
Actually,
were
here's
named after
that
our
picture.
pastor, Robert Vaughn.
here's the picture of the
Yeah.
family back then.
Yes, that's our little Robbie, our firstborn.
Very pudgy baby.
Yeah, cute.
And young.
Cute baby.
Young mom and dad. Look at that.
Yeah, young. And my mother came to help for a home. I was in bed for the first 2 weeks. I had it. And my mom came to help for a month. My mom and dad were there for a month. And my mom had a brand new dress on. She was changing you, and she had a brand new dress. And all of a sudden, she went, "Oh no!" You had given her a shower on her brand new dress.
Remember how I used to like the dryer? We put them on the dryer and turn it on.
And that
Just
wasn't
for
us. That
crying
was
baby?
Marlene Annenson.
No, it was us too.
All right, so talk about naming of the baby. So it sounds like there wasn't any other choices for names except for my middle name.
Robert after your daddy, and we were going to name you Robert Todd after Uncle Todd because he was just precious to our family. And my mother said, you know, that would hurt your dad too much. And so then that's why we chose the name after our pastor, Dr. Vaughn. So you are Robert Vaughn, spelled exactly like his name, Vaughan.
Yep.
Which is an extended Vaughn.
And then Kevin had Eugene after
Kevin
Grandpa then.
was named after Grandpa.
And then Michael had Stuart after Uncle
after
Stu.
Uncle Stuart.
And was there any other alternatives for their names?
Nope.
Nothing?
It just was clear.
It just was clear.
Just
You had
was
peace of
clear.
mind about all three.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
no backup runner-ups or
No backups. Nope.
and no girl names?
No. No. And then they didn't know. They didn't have ultrasound. So we were expecting a girl in there somewhere. They just did it by heartbeat. And they
Yeah.
even said Michael was going to be a girl because he had a rapid heartbeat. And that's when Darlene Slynn gave me a pink shower. I mean, pink, pink, pink. Everything was pink, 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 pink.
Does Michael know this one?
I think he does. I don't tell it to him very often because I don't want him to feel it's not his fault. And then a week before he was born, the doctor, Duncan his name, and he said, you know, I'm changing my mind. Maybe you'll have a boy. And I said, what? What? I was so surprised after all this pink talk, you know. So he got it right. Now they have
So you didn't have a girl name planned out though, even though
I didn't.
that's strange.
I didn't at the time. No?
All right, so again, going back to after Fort Lee, you guys moved to Weyerhaeuser, moved to Longview.
No. After we moved to jail.
Oh yeah. After you moved to
Washington,
GAO,
D.C.,
did the
Arlington.
GAO, and then you moved to Longview, and
And
then
we moved to Tacoma.
Browns Point. Forgot about that. So, do you want to talk about almost going to North Carolina and Mississippi? Both of those stories.
When I was in Tacoma, they decided that I needed more operations experience. And so they had a job offer in North Carolina. And for some reason, they were so confident in me going there because the guy who was the boss used to work with me in Tacoma. So we went, Mom, they paid for you to come back, didn't they? So they paid for Mom and me to come back. And we landed and I say, where's Plymouth? Well, it's down the road here. Small town. Anyway, so we get to the mill, and I'm looking around. I wasn't that content with the job. I liked my boss, though. I really liked him. But you tell what happened with
Well,
the
then
wife.
the boss's wife was going to take me around town and show me, which the town was 2 blocks long. I mean, that was the extent of the town. And then she said, you know, I'm going to have to cut this short because I have a doctor's appointment. And I said, oh my, I hope I haven't detained you. And she said, no, this is just my weekly appointment. She said, ever since I've come here, I've had to see a psychiatrist. So that kind of settled it for us. We decided not to go there.
That's a bad warning sign.
That's a bad warning sign, yeah. So we went to Longview.
So then the next one is Plymouth, North Carolina. They sent me down to Plymouth, North Carolina, which was a very hard place to get to. So I get there, and they had no paved streets. So I go to the mill, and I didn't like it at all. So I came back, walk into the office, and there's a guy sitting in my chair. I said, who are you? He says, well, I'm your replacement. I said, well, I didn't take the job. So I go talk to my boss. He said, you didn't take the job? I said, no. He said, well, I knew you knew Al Heater, and I thought you'd take the job, so we hired your replacement.
Oh my gosh.
So I got my job back for a while.
And what did the replacement do?
They put him in another division.
And then how long was it? I thought it was shortly after that we went to
It wasn't too
Longview.
long after that. It wasn't too long.
Let's see, I was trying to think when we moved to. Let's see,
So what
did
was your
you-
favorite thing about the Browns Point house?
Just the view.
Oh God.
Yeah.
We got that house for like $24,000. 5-bedroom.
Yeah.
View of Commencement Bay. Just gorgeous. And then we had this wonderful neighbor.
And big
the
lot.
Big lot.
Yeah.
The Brewers were next door, and every time he was a baker. He'd go to work early, come home, a bakery delivery man. And he'd come home at 3 in the afternoon, and you'd be up from your nap, and you'd be right at the window, outdoor, looking for him. Say, Brewer, Brewer, Brewer. And they loved you so much. He had so much fun with you. Yeah.
That house had the big weeping willow tree and it had the big cherry tree in it.
Yeah.
And so then you moved down to Longview, which we now know is an Indian burial ground for the whole city.
Yeah, we sure didn't know that before. Wow. That's amazing. Wow.
And so then, how long was Dad working at Weyerhaeuser before he decided to run for office?
Well, I worked for Weyerhaeuser 19 and a half years, and I was a legislator for 10, the last 10.
So 9 years into it.
I don't even think it was that long.
Yeah. Because they said if I stayed 6 more months, I would have got 20 years.
Yeah, but I mean, I thought you were only there like 4 or 5 years before you decided to run.
Well, no, I'm talking about the total time I was with Weyerhaeuser.
I'm talking about how long were we in Longview before you decided to run? Not much time at all.
No.
Maybe 4 years because
Well, before that'd be 14 years out of the 19.
he was running against a very popular superintendent of schools. Very popular.
So what made you decide to get into politics?
I was always interested in politics. I wanted to run in Tacoma.
Oh, did you want to run? I didn't know this.
I went down and I talked to the Republican Party. They said, oh, you don't have a chance. Because our neighbor, who was very friendly, because they were good friends with Kane's mom and dad, Al Adams.
Oh, Al Adams, a
Correct,
Democrat.
You know.
Yeah.
So I've talked to the Republican, no, you don't have a chance. Anyway, Al Adams invites me up to his house, and Warren Magnuson was there. So we're sitting around, and Magnuson said, well, introduce everybody around the room. And Al goes, this guy, you probably don't know him. He's Bob Williams. He's the staunch Republican. Republican? What's a Republican doing here?
You're not allowed.
You're not allowed in Al's house.
He wrote to be a volunteer for Dan Evans'
Yeah.
campaign. He said, I'll work for free. I just want to help you. And he never got a response.
No, I did. I was the treasurer.
I thought they didn't use you at all.
No, I was the treasurer.
For his statewide or his,
Yeah, and
really?
what's the guy on the end of the...
It starts with a W. Or you mean the guy at the end who is a legislator?
Yeah, Neuschwander.
Oh, Neuschwander. That's not
And he was the chairman, I was the treasurer.
Of
So they,
Dan Evans?
of Dan
yeah,
Evans'
so
campaign?
they had a national figure come in, and so they invite me all over to the Tacoma Club with other people on staff. I get up there, and First County Chairman comes out and says, Bob, you stay out here, and once we collect the money, we'll give it to you, and you can deposit it. You know, it really made me feel good. Like,
Yeah.
sit
You
in
don't
the
get to
hall.
be a part of the meeting? So anyway, so then you moved to Tacoma, from Tacoma down to Longview, and then what was the deciding factor to, while you were working at Weyerhaeuser, to go into politics?
Well, I always was interested in politics, but I guess after 4.5, 5 years, I decided to run, and no one gave me a chance. In fact, the county party wasn't that enthused about me. The state party wouldn't support me at all. But the good news is Hal Zimmerman, who was a legislator from Camas, didn't want any Republican money, so he told the Republican National Committee, put all your attention on Bob Williams. So they did. So I had Jackie, what was her name? Jackie Davis, and Tom Gildermeister, who is a genius on politics, working on my campaign.
And they're from the National Party?
They're from the National Party. State party wouldn't do anything. State party is kind of crazy. But
And
anyway,
the state party didn't help you just because they didn't think you had a chance, because it was a strongly Democrat,
strong.
labor union
Other
town.
than Bill Paris, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I knocked on a lot of doors, and
12,000.
election night, Mom decided I was going to lose, so she didn't come down.
Now wait, now let's phrase it a little bit. Plus he wore holes through 2 brand new pairs of shoes.
So you
didn't say
doorbelled
that.
12,000
And he
homes.
lost 20 pounds doorbelling. And it was several nights before election night. The Daily News newspaper editor had interviewed Bob or something about and he called him a wet behind the ears greenhorn. Who would want to vote for someone like that? And then they accused us. We spent $20,000 on the campaign instead of our opponent only spent 12 or something. Well, he was well known anyway, and that infuriated Bob. Like he was trying to buy the campaign. And so Bob went down the night before election night and just told him what he thought. And so on election day, I mean, it was a blistering editorial against Bob. That's when I decided, oh, how am I going to console Bob? What can I say? You know, it's just a very sad turn of events. You know, I mean, the newspaper blasted him, and then on election night he called me about 9:45, and he said, "You better get down here." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because we're winning. We're winning." And it flabbergasted everybody. And they did a poll afterward. How did this upstart new young guy win? And it's because they said, they interviewed the people and they said, this lively step of this man coming to our doorway with energy and answers, and we just wanted to vote for him. New, fresh blood. And so we won.
The interesting thing in that is the Labor Council came out against me, which wasn't a surprise.
Yeah.
But I knew the Labor guys, you know, and I was really surprised. And they had a big ad in against Bob Williams. And so the next day they're down at the mill and they walk up to me, "Hey Bob, look at our hats." And they had Bob Williams for legislature. I said, "What are you guys doing?" They said, "We're for you, but the State Labor Council made us come out against you." And they campaigned among the workers saying, "Vote for Bob, he's the one."
So even though the official union came out against you, the real rank and file union workers were still for you.
But Bill Parrish was convinced I'd lose. Carolyn Feasy, I don't know if you knew Carolyn,
I know the name.
but she had lined up for us to come out the day after the election to use her hot tub to relax.
Console yourself.
Yeah, consoler. Well, and our doctor, our pediatrician, gave us his, I don't know if it was that time, anyway, he gave us his place on a lake to come up and just rest.
Recover.
Recover, yeah.
And so then, obviously, that started 5 different elections every other year for 10 years then,
Years.
running for re-election.
Yeah.
And also,
And you were Paige.
yeah,
You were
I was
Paige.
Paige.
Yeah.
So it was,
The last election was the funniest one. That's the one that on election, you know, you file for election.
who was that against?
I don't even know. But anyway, it was against no one really. So Friday was the last day to file.
Right.
No one filed against me. I checked at noon, no one filed against me. So I'm working at the fair at the Republican booth, and this guy comes up and says, "Hey Bob, I'm running against you." I said, "Oh, okay. Who are you?" And he told me his name. He said, "Will you register me to vote?" And I go, "Wait a minute, it's after 5 o'clock. Filing's closed." I look around, this has got to be a trap. There must be someone.
You're being punked.
I said, "You're not registered?" He said, "No." I said, "But the filing's over." He said, "Well, register me anyway." I said, "Well, I'll register, but I'm putting the time on." So I put the time on. And they threw him off the ballot.
Because he
They
wasn't,
never put him on the ballot
Wow.
registered.
because he
Wow.
wasn't registered.
That's crazy.
And so during that same time, you also dressed up as Thomas Jefferson every 4th of July. Do you want to talk about why you chose Thomas Jefferson?
Well, Hal Palmer and Warren Franklin and I, let's see, Hal was John Adams. Franklin was
Benjamin
Ben
Franklin?
Franklin, yeah. And I was Jefferson. And I had read a lot about Jefferson. I really liked what he did as president, but I liked what he did as writing the Declaration of Independence. So I was kind of inspired by him.
But Daddy's outfit was the only one that really wasn't appropriate for the period of time where when they lived. The other men had theirs made in browns and grays and that tone.
Mine was red, white, and blue.
Bright red vest and bright blue jacket with red lining, and he took a pair
And
of
you
his,
made it, right?
I made it,
Yeah, with the
and
bright
made
colors.
his white pants and pull them up, made them like
White
knickers.
stockings, yeah.
Yeah.
Knickers,
I remember that.
and
Bright white.
somewhere he got a red,
Red hair.
wig. I don't know where he got that red wig, but anyway.
Well, Jefferson was redhead.
And so
Yeah.
every 4th of July, the three of you would go down and would you do speaking at 4th of July celebration at Lake
We
Sacagawea?
spoke, or we joined around the Rotary clubs and all before. Rotary Lions, usually I get in the Lions, because there's so many Lions and clubs in Columbia.
And would you just do historic speeches or would you actually
Historic
do new
speeches.
stuff? Historic speeches. Okay. And why don't you talk about State Representative Roberts Raiders?
Well, my second year, first year as a freshman, I wanted to get on the budget committee. And they got me on the budget committee, to a surprise. And then they said, Bob, you're on the energy committee. I said, wait. I don't know anything about energy. I'm not on the energy committee. They said, no, you're on the energy committee. I said, I think you got me confused with Senator Williams in the Senate, who's an energy expert. You're in the energy committee. So I'm praying. I said, what am I going to do in the energy committee? And the Lord says, research whoops. Whoops. What is whoops? And within 3 weeks, I became the expert in the legislature on whoops. It was amazing.
But when you were down at Whoops, what happened where a booklet or something, was it in the men's room somewhere? This booklet was just left out. I thought it was in the men's room because you said this is incredible how I
And
got this
is
information
certain- is right on point. to
right
what-
on point.
The data that
Right
you
on
needed.
point what he needed. Right on point. Yeah.
And then I went to a whoops meeting to speak, and the public utility districts used to run whoops,
Yeah.
and they picked one of the guys to be in charge of it. And this guy who was in charge of it, he didn't know anything about management. I mean, he was just a PUD commissioner. And some of these PUD commissioners don't have a full-time job. And I started asking him questions. He said, well, you have a good point. You're saying we should pay our executive director more money. We will. I said, no, I'm saying you should recruit and hire a competent executive director and pay him more. So next meeting, they raised the salary of this Dumbo from $45,000 to $105,000.
Thinking that would be the solution.
Yeah, and that really got me in the PI. The PI, Mike Layton, who was a terrible liberal, but he loved what I was doing on whoops. So we finally got it straightened around.
I remember the headline was like, Bob blows the whistle on whoops.
Yeah.
And so then that led to Roberts Raiders, right?
Yeah, so then my sophomore year, we had all these new freshmen, they didn't know what to do, and so I used to, well, the legislature remodeled their offices. There were 98 members of the House, but they only came up with 97 offices. So I said, hey, I will volunteer to go down on the first floor where they put the Republican Communications, and I'll be in their office. So that gave me the ability to use communications full time. So that was a lot of fun. So we lined up the Roberts Raiders people who come in like on Monday night, and I briefed them and give agencies assignments. So they go into the state energy office or something. They have these little. I saw some of those decals the other day. Maybe upstairs. And they go in the office. Energy director so-and-so here? No. Okay. They drop one of those.
Because people weren't showing up for work on time,
No.
right? They were government employees that just thought
That's
they could.
right.
And then when Gardner became governor, that was really fun. Because his staff hated me, and I had a hard time getting an appointment.
This is after you ran against Booth Gardner.
And this was right before, I think.
Before, I think.
Yeah, it was before.
Yeah.
So he used to come over to my office and knock on the window.
At
'cause the
night?
doors were at night. Knock on the window at night, and I let him in, and we sit down and talk. He says, I don't understand. He says, you criticize me. You said I don't have control of the state government. I'm in charge. I'm the governor. I said, Governor, you only control 46% of the agencies. What do you mean? I said, well, you don't control the energy office. You don't control the Department of Natural Resources. You don't control this. You don't control higher ed. You don't control K-12. Why not? I said, that's the way the Constitution is. You have 9 separately elected officials. You have the auditor, the treasurer. He was just amazed at that. So we used to have this love-hate relationship.
Where you guys would talk in depth about things, but then also compete against each other.
And he always wanted Daddy's insight, wisdom, but that's why he would come home at night or over to his office at
Late at
night, so
night.
no one could see him.
And then the one time when my brother died, I was going back to his funeral, and Gardner called and says, I got to see you. I said, well, I'm leaving at such and such time tonight. He says, look, if you want over to the mansion, come on over at 5:30 and I'll let you in. So I go over at 5:30, ring the doorbell. His wife comes out. Bob Williams, what are you doing here? I said,
She was a nice person.
she was nice, but she didn't
She
like
didn't
our
expect to see it, yeah.
I said, well, the governor wanted me to come over. She said, well, you can stay here until he shows up.
Oh, wow. Did he ever show up?
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
like 15 minutes late. He apologized.
Oh, my goodness. I thought she liked you, even though she was
Well, she liked me later, but she didn't like me then because
because of a
she liked me when
politics.
she got divorced.
And then what were your memories of the governor race?
I don't have too many memories of it anymore. I just knew that Booth Gardner raised more money on the night of the election, on the night of the session starting, than I raised the whole campaign. But we made a lot of friends because we ran a poor man's budget, so we used to stay in people's homes.
Yeah.
And that's where we met Tigans and so many other
Would
nice.
open up the doors.
Andy Nesbitt would drive me all over the state.
All over this.
He was a former legislator.
There was a big upset when you won the primary and you beat Norm Mailing.
Oh, a big
Yeah.
upset.
That was a huge upset because Seattle establishment thought that the prosecutor.
See, I didn't realize how big it was till the reporter was telling me later. I was the first Republican to win a primary for governor who didn't live in Pierce, King, or Snohomish County in over 50 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. Because it's always, it's Seattle. Everything's about Seattle, in North
Yeah.
King County and Snohomish County. And so that's a big deal when you beat Norm Mailing because he was a prosecutor. So
The other funny story was Mount St. Helens. So after Mount St. Helens blew up, I was on duty that weekend, and the Corps of Engineers calls. Hey, you're the duty officer this weekend. I said, yeah. They said, there's a log jam in the Columbia River. What is it? The Cowles River that came down. Yeah, the Cowles River.
yeah.
We need you to break it up. I said, break up? Jim, you guys are the Corps of Engineers. Well, we need to break it up. I said, okay, I'll see what I can do. And luckily, the Lord took care of it and broke it up.
Oh, a
'Cause
log jam. Okay.
So how did you? You're a duty officer as a state of representatives.
No, as Weyerhaeuser employee.
Oh, really? You're the Weyerhaeuser employee,
Yeah.
and so you had to. So what did you do to break it up then?
I didn't. The Lord broke it up. I was starting to call people, and they called back and said it's broken up.
It naturally broke up. No.
And then my boss called from Weyerhaeuser, and he said, hey, Scoop Jackson's coming. Will you take him around the mountain in a helicopter? You heard this story, I think.
No.
Okay. So we get up in the helicopter, we fly over Weyerhaeuser land. Scoop says, wow, that's pretty good. They did a really good job of clearing up. I said, yeah, they've been working pretty hard. Then we fly over the Department of Natural Resources land. It's not as good. He says, what's their problem? I said, well, they have to go to the legislature to get approval and get the funding. Then we fly over the Forest Service lands, and all the trees are down. Scoop says, what's this land? I said, it's the Forest Service. Why aren't those trees picked up? I said, Senator, they can't pick up the trees because of your legislation. What do you mean? In your legislation, they're declared cultural items. And they can't, he said, that's a fire hazard. That's disease. I mean, who did this? I said, Senator, it's your bill. So we land back at Kelso. Scoop gets out of the chopper, runs up to this guy. You didn't tell anybody. He's going.
Good deal.
He just,
Did they change it then, or you think?
they started, but it took forever.
Still going on in Montana
Everything
right now
takes Forever.
for the fires. That's why there's so many fires in Montana right now.
I know. It's
Yeah.
the whole way they're doing it.
Yeah.
So before we go into anything else about the governor race you can think of?
Can't think. You think anything else?
No, you had an eventful congressional race
Against Jolene Ensel?
That was terrible.
Yeah, that was a brutal one.
We found out why later.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
Yeah, that was really
So.
bad. So,
All right.
anything else?
We can come back to those and revisit governor and Congress if we want to. Let's go to Mom.
Yeah.
So Mom, talk about some marriage stories around that time and also before that time. So how about the first time you cooked a turkey?
Oh, yeah. And since I didn't have any lessons from my mom, you know,
Blame it on her.
I didn't know how to do it. I did not know how to. They said, you know, you put it in with the breast side down, I guess, stuff it, and I thought, I can't tell from this thing what is the top and what is the bottom of this bird. I have no idea. So I tried it. I picked him up and pretended he was flying. Okay, now what would be the back side of him, or the, you know, and what would be the breast side?
This is definitely cooking 101.
Yeah, I mean, it really was. I mean, I finally, maybe I got it right. I have no idea, you know.
We didn't
but-
have computers in those days.
Yeah, you can't Google it, right?
No, so
There's no
anyway,
video.
I learned over time. I just had to learn over time how to do things, you know.
And so then
But it's at least it's not as bad as 2 years ago, or was it this last Thanksgiving that I didn't have my glasses on. Put the turkey in the oven all ready to go. I didn't press the bake button without my glasses. I pressed the broil button, and that thing was broiled crisp. Yeah, so
That-
really,
it still continues.
yes. So anyway, family stories.
April Fool's jokes.
Oh yeah.
Oh, she was good at that.
Yeah, I shouldn't have done that. But there was one that backfired on me. Some of them turned out okay. Like even to this day, I sew Daddy's pajama legs closed or his pajama sleeves closed, and he forgets about it every year. And he puts his leg and he topples around.
After the first 5 years you did it, you think you'd stop doing it.
Oh no, but because he forgets every year.
So you just go back to the well and do it again.
I just go back to the one we had success in. But there was one where I bought a soap that was supposed to turn black on your body when you were showering. And I thought this will be good. So Daddy was taking a shower. I had the soap in his, in the soap box there in the place. And I was waiting for him to scream, yell, say, "What's going on here?" And he didn't say a word. And so he got out, and I said, "Well, Daddy, how was your shower?" And he said, "Well, just fine." And so after he left, I went in and checked the shower. It never turned black. It was supposed to turn black as you were using it. And I thought, well,
She's
the
so disappointed.
April Fool was on me.
She's still disappointed to this day.
That it didn't. But there was another one where you put saran wrap in their ham and cheese sandwich, in between the ham and cheese. Just put a little piece of saran wrap. And so I said, "Daddy, how was your lunch today?" And he said, "Just fine." And I said, "You didn't find the saran wrap?"
Oh.
He said, "No, I guess I ate it."
See, that's
And
bad.
then the office, oh dear, I was during my really naughty days. But it was a small office then. I mean, not too many people, and some of the guys were really great. They wanted to do April Fools too. So the night before, we'd always salt the coffee, because then the next morning they would perk the coffee, but it would be salted. And sometimes I'd put red Jello, the powdered up
Yeah.
the sink, and so they'd turn on the sink, and
You're right.
red water would come
She's
out.
just scheming.
And then, but the bad part was we glued. What was it? All the staplers. Let's see. What did we glued some of the staplers to the
And the scissors you
desk.
used.
Oh, we glued the scissors
Which
shut.
ruined them.
Yeah,
That's-
it was kind of ruined.
Ruined 'em.
It was kind of ruined.
Kinda ruined.
And so the next April Fools, they sent us out of town. We went to Alabama, but the night before I left,
She's still.
I was doing some little tricks, and so the next day, Julianne McMahon called Bob in Alabama and said, "Mr. Williams, we're going to have to call a plumber," and I said, he said, "Why?" "Well, we're not getting any water." And Bob said, "Oh dear, well, go under the sink and try turning the water on." I guess Jane must have just turned all the water off.
So you did?
And that's all I did, So they
That's all she did.
so
That's all
they
they
turned the
turned
water back
water.
on. Yeah.
You want to talk about saran wrap on the toilet seat?
Oh yeah, I didn't do that, but I told John Michael about it, because John Wright had filled us in on everything he had done to Candy, his fiance, as far as putting a hole through the wall when she was visiting his family home into the shower, and then with a fish line jerking it back when she was jerking
Pulling
back
the
the
curtain.
shower curtain, and she shrieked. So he was full of April Fool's jokes. And so he said, yes, and there's another one, you put saran wrap on underneath the seat of your commode, you know. And so I said, now John Michael, he was like 10. I said, but don't do that one. Don't do. We did things like unscrew the light bulbs a little bit so they wouldn't come on, and put some horseradish on Lynn's toothbrush.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, you know, little things like that. But then when I left, he did put the saran wrap under the toilet seat, and so the mother was not real happy. It got the mat all wet and things like. But I did a
So
good
why?
one.
What caused you to? Because you're always so nice. Why the April Fool's
This
jokes?
is her day to let loose.
That's her day to let loose.
Well, and John Wright in his office is nice young man, and so I had bought some invisible ink, and so I bumped into John, like I was bumping into him, and oh John, I'm so sorry, and the invisible ink ran down his white sweater, right, just black ink, and I said, oh, I hope it dissolves, I hope, you know, and he just went, oh. And he knew he couldn't be mad at me because I'm the boss's wife, see? And he said, oh, this was the new sweater my wife just gave me for my birthday. Thank goodness. It did.
Yeah, what if it didn't come
evaporate.
out?
It came out. So he was going to get even with me. So this several weeks later, this was in Lynn's house where they had their office. And John said, Jane, would you give me a drink of water? Sure, I'll get you a drink of water, John. So I went to the kitchen sink. And he had hooked up the spray thing when you turn on the faucet. Yeah, and so I just got flooded with water, you know, and I just laughed because I thought, well, I deserve
You deserve that one.
I deserve that. So, yeah, but then I stopped. I realized the office was growing more people, and I can't do that anymore. So I stopped. I've been good.
Except for sewing his clothes still to this
Well,
day.
yeah, you got to have a little fun. A little bit of fun.
All right. Something about going out to winter early morning with two different shoes on.
Oh yeah, that was just dark winter morning, and I did have two sets of identical shoes. At least they were identical, one black and one brown. You know, and I just got dressed very hurriedly in the morning and put on one black and one brown, and headed out. You know. So,
what about your day?
Yeah, but that was a dark morning.
Okay. Hi, honey.
Oh yeah, when we were first married, Bob would call every noon, you know, and that was after you were born too, you know. And how are you doing? And how is baby doing? And so I'd answer the phone every time, you know, hi, honey. And then he'd ask about how everyone's doing. So I picked up the phone one day at noon and I said, hi, honey. And there was pause, just quiet. And he said, well, I'm someone's honey, but I'm not your honey. And it was a salesman. So anyway, but you were the cutest little baby. You were so cute. And Daddy, when we wanted you to learn to crawl, Daddy would put a piece of watermelon on a plate in the middle of the living room. And you were so determined to get that watermelon. I mean, you did the army crawl, you know, where you just wiggle on your tummy, you just wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And you kept doing that until you finally got the watermelon.
Okay, we have to have equal time for the other boys. What else do you remember about the other boys when they're kids?
Well, what about you? We remember
Oh no,
that-
you're gonna get me in trouble with the other
No,
kids.
but you're the one
but
filming.
You remember, we didn't know much about feeding babies.
No, we're not going to say that part. No. No.
It's already on film now, Grandma. It's too late.
No. I mean, we just encourage you probably too much to
And
eat.
so
when
then
you
you
didn't want
sat
to
in
eat.
the chair, you
Daddy.
fell over.
Oh, well, yeah.
Oh yeah, I used to be so fat I couldn't.
You couldn't sit up straight, and you'd sit there and then go to the left, and then you'd sit there and go to the right. You couldn't sit up straight.
Those stories were a lot funnier when I was 145 pounds and really skinny. I was like, how could I ever be that roly-poly? But now I'm getting back that way again. So.
But you were determined. You knew how to get out of your playpen, and you would stack up toys. You know, you knew how to do it until you absolutely got
Skateboardist.
over that playpen bar, the bar at the top. So, yeah.
So, I asked you earlier about one of the funny family stories you remember, but actually it wasn't a family story that you remembered, but when I said funny story, what was the story that you brought up? And I said I never thought I'd hear that word with a funny story.
Oh.
Dachau.
Oh yeah, that was. Yeah, that was before we were married
Yep.
in Germany, and we went on this tour, a little tour. I guess we were by ourselves, but anyways, very serious subject of visiting Dachau, and it's just sobering. It's just unbelievable. You go through there and you just say, "I can't believe this happened. I can't believe this happened." So it was. We came out very just serious-minded, and so we were on the sidewalk outside, and all of a sudden, in those days, girls didn't have like pantyhose or no stockings. You always wore a stocking of some kind. We had what was called a little garter belt, and that held up your stockings. Even my dad used to wear a garter belt. Before they had elastic in men's hoses, he would put on a garter belt to hold up his stockings. So anyway, my garter belt broke, and both my stockings fell right down to around my ankles. And there I was standing, and instead of quietly being demure and just ignoring the whole thing, I just said, "Oh, look, Bob, look at my stockings. They fell down around my ankles." Of course, everyone else was looking too. And he said, "Just stay there." Because I couldn't walk. I mean, just stay there.
Waddle.
Just stay there. I'll go get the car. That was life's embarrassing moment. Yes, that was embarrassing moment.
All
But
right.
I do want to share what happened in Longview. Longview was very significant. It was hard to leave Longview because we had our wonderful neighbors, Nita Smith and the Gastons and
Yeah.
people at church. It was a wonderful, where you were sick, people would bring food and put it on your doorpost.
Good neighborhood.
Good neighborhood. And I decided at age 32 that I should probably join a Bible study because I didn't even know the books of the Bible at all. And so I joined this little Bible study with a woman by the name of Kathy Teitzel. She was like 27 years old, young herself. And there were about 20 of us in there. And as soon as we all went into her house, we noticed there was just something different about her. I mean, she was just filled with this joy, just filled with this joy. And I thought, wow, there's something different about Kathy. And so she was just sharing her own faith with us. And I can remember going home that night, and I was brushing my teeth at night, and I just said, "Lord, here I'm 33. I don't want to be at the end of my life and feel like I've missed something. I don't want that." I said, "I don't know what Kathy has, but whatever she has, I want it." And she had mentioned about inviting Christ into your heart, in your life. And I said, "Well, if I'm supposed to do that, well then come on in." And that was the gist of my prayer. It wasn't really, but that's what I said to the Lord. And after that, I just noticed a whole changing in my attitude, my priorities, my understanding of the Bible. And that lady, she led all of us to the Lord. None of us really knew Christ. We didn't.
You're more Sunday Christians.
Sunday,
than
go
not.
to church,
Yeah.
have a head knowledge. Okay, yeah, we know Christ, but we didn't have him down here. And so she later went on to lead a Bible study in Anchorage, Alaska, with 500 ladies in it.
Wow.
It was a nationwide Bible study called Women's Bible Fellowship. So she touched many, many lives.
She's still alive?
I don't know. I've lost touch with her. But I thought about her, and then the one you went to. Did you go to school with her son? I was 10 years in that Bible study.
Slim?
No. Oh golly, yeah, I'll come back in it. Pat Corthus, and she was a wonderful Bible study leader too. And she was the one that there were 45 in that Bible study. And when we first went in, she picked up the Bible and she said, "If this doesn't change every day of your life, this is what you do with this book." And she threw it in the waste paper basket, and we all went, "Oh," But she made the point.
Yep.
She made the point. If it doesn't change your life, then it's
Why bother?
worthless. Yeah, she made the point. And she gave an hour and a half study every week, and she was raising 3 small children. Every week she prepared for an hour and a half. Huge impact on all our lives. Isn't that? I mean, I just felt so blessed to be in
So
her
both
company.
Bible studies, how did that prepare you to move from Longview to Olympia?
Well, it didn't. I hated to move even more. I didn't want to move to Olympia. But Daddy said, "I think we need to move." And so it was really hard. And then bought a pastor's house that Daddy knew, the pastor, and as soon as I moved in, I said, where are the clotheslines to hang out clothes? I love to hang out clothes. Well, there's no clotheslines because we were in the dark woods.
There's no sun.
There's no sun. There's no sun. And so
That
then,
has to be your least favorite house.
That
Between
was-
Browns Point,
yeah.
Longview, this
Yeah.
house, and
yeah,
Olympia.
yeah.
That was your only one that didn't have a big view, right? This
Well-
has a view of the water.
Well,
Longview
it was
had a big
mostly
view.
the lack of sunlight.
Yeah.
But that forced me out. When I took Michael to school in the morning, I would just go out looking like the Nisqually Valley, and
Yep.
I saw this one precious little house on the edge of the valley, and it was 9 o'clock in the morning, and I don't know what possessed me. I just knocked on the door.
No way.
Yeah, and the lady came to the door, and I said, I just have to tell you, you have the most beautiful spot here. You look right out to the mountain. You're right on the edge of the Nisqually Valley. And she said, well, will you come in? I said, no, I just had to tell you how beautiful your spot is. And she said, please come in. And the Lord put it on my heart to go in. Just go in and be a friend to this lady. So I went in, and I found, I stayed 4 hours that day. And she was a widow. Her husband had been a colonel, but an abusive person. And she, at one time, she was about 64 then, and what I didn't know is she was an alcoholic. She had been Miss Thurston County at one time. She was so beautiful. She showed me a picture when she was young.
Yeah.
A beautiful lady, but she she never had children. She must have had a
Is this somebody I know
hysterectomy.
or not?
Beg your pardon?
Is this somebody I know or?
BJ. Betty
Oh,
Jo
you
Whalen.
mentioned her, yeah,
Betty
yeah.
Jo Whalen, but this was another precious story too. That I would go every week and just either take her grocery shopping or just chat with her or whatever. But I always noticed she disappeared. She disappeared for a minute or so. I mean, a couple of minutes. I'll be right back. I'll be right back. Well, I didn't know she was just drinking. The neighbors had nothing to do with her, and so it was before Easter one day, and she let me talk about God, but she wouldn't let me talk about Jesus. Don't mention his name. Nope. And so she was in bed, and I saw this little Bible was by her bedside. I said, Betty Jo, this is from your grandmother. It said, Betty Jo, read this often. And I said, can I read you a little bit? And she said, well, okay. And so I read some of the verses and read where Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one gets to the Father God except through me. And she sat right up in bed and said, oh, it's all becoming clear now. I mean, it was just incredible. It's all becoming clear. And I said, Betty Jo, do you want to receive Christ as your Savior? And she said, yes, I do. And she said it about inviting Christ in her life, and then she laid back down and she said, I'm tired. And so I left. So I came back a week later after Easter. I knocked on the door. I heard the TV on, and all everything was drawn. The drapes were drawn. And I knocked on the door. No one came. And I thought, I hear noise in there. I need to get in or something. And so I went to a neighbor and I said, do you have a key? And they said, well, yes, we do have a key. So they went down and opened the lock, but the guard chain was on it.
Yep.
And they said, we'll go back and get a wire cutter. So they went back to the wire cutter, and I said, Lord, I just feel I need to get in this house. I need to get in this house. The chain dropped off the hook, and I could go right in. And I went into her bedroom. She was in bed, but I felt her, and she was warm. So the neighbor called the fire department.
Yep.
And they came out, and they chastised me a bit. And they said, lady, don't you know the woman in the bed, she's been dead probably 3 days. I said, no. I said, I felt her and she was warm. And they said, well, that's the process of decomposition.
She'd gone from being cold to being warm.
Yeah, decomposition. So
Yeah.
anyway, so then she had one sister, and the sister called me and said, well, you give the funeral message. And I said, me?
I'm not family.
So I went to our pastor, Seppi, no, wrong person, Sechrist, Dr. Sechrist, Pastor Sechrist. And I said, what do I do? And he said, give it, just give it. And so I just told how I met BJ and how we were friends for like 6 months or 7 months and how she came to know the Lord. And I mean, it was just a simple message. And after it was all over, a man sitting way in the back, it must have been a boyfriend of hers at one time. He came forward and he said, you know, I've never heard that before about what you said about Jesus. And I said, well, good, that you've heard it now, you know. And I mean, that was really sweet. I mean, that was really sweet.
Then
That
you
was,
can have an impact on somebody's life.
yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
it was
And
her
the same
husband.
thing, and her husband died. The same thing happened with Paul Gingrich. With Paul, I mean, for 30 years, Julie and I have taken him to 2 Billy Graham crusades here in Tacoma.
And who is Paul Gingrich again?
That was the one that went with Grandpa to King's table to have
Oh, okay.
dinner and
Yeah,
put
yeah,
a cinnamon roll in his pocket.
And how did Julie know him?
Neighbors, next door neighbors.
He lived in Magnolia?
No, here in Tacoma.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, when she was growing up. She was
Got
growing
it.
up, and he loved her a lot because she was just such a cute little girl. And so anyway, we had been witnessing, trying to just tell me, said, don't we, if I'm any religion, it's going to be Buddhists. They're the only ones who are peaceful. All the others are warmongering. And so we just had to really back off, you know. But every birthday we'd take him out to lunch
Yeah.
and everything. And then when he moved out here to retirement home, I'd visit him and take him to a little Bible
In Gig
study
Harbor?
there in Gig Harbor. And he'd go to Bible study but fall asleep. But at least, you know, we'd do this little routine.
Get exposed through osmosis.
And then on Valentine's Day, it was and I went back to his room, and I made a history of his life. So I gave him this history, and Daddy typed it all up. You know, I found out interesting facts about his life. But I said, Paul, would you like to receive Jesus as your Savior? And he got really quiet. It was just amazing. And he said, yes, I would. I mean, it had to be. It was
Total
just the Holy
change.
Spirit.
Yeah.
Complete change of countenance, of attitude. And he received Christ. He probably doesn't even remember now because now he's losing it a bit. But that was so incredible.
Wait, so he's still alive?
Yeah, he's
How old is he?
92.
Because
Yeah.
he'd be Grandpa's age?
Grandpa's older. Yeah, he was younger than Grandpa.
Oh.
Yeah, Grandpa was born in 1902.
So he'd
Yeah.
be, 100 and...
Yeah,
Yeah.
Grandpa would be old.
100
He'd be old anyway. So
17.
those were the two real thrills because it was all the work of the Holy Spirit. I mean, that's the only way you can explain it. So that was fun for me. So, any other childhood story? We have lots to tell on.
So let's go back to Kevin. Gave birth to Kevin in Tacoma.
Did we do what?
Where did you give birth to Kevin at? Tacoma or Longview?
Tacoma.
Yeah, that was
right?
Tacoma, and the Brewers, our neighbors, brought over flowers, and they brought over a little sailor suit for you, and I mean they and Daddy, I remember came home from the hospital, and Daddy had made gingerbread and was taking him around to show me all the roadies, and when you all came to visit me in the hospital, and so Rob was 3, and a policeman was walking in front of you, the two of you. And just walking in front, and he threw down a candy wrapper. And little Robbie said, Daddy, that policeman littered. And the policeman immediately turned right around, picked up the candy wrapper, and proceeded to walk on. I thought that was so cute that a little child should lead them. So that was really sweet.
So Kevin was born, and your mom was still alive then,
She,
right?
yes. She lived until... It's interesting. You lost your dad when you were 9 months old, and Michael lost his grandmother when he was 9 months old. Isn't that interesting? So, yeah.
So Kevin would have been there she would have been there for the first 6 years of Kevin's life.
Yeah, he remembers
Right.
the cookies and she'd give him a little dump truck, he remembers some of those things, yeah.
So any Kevin stories?
Let's see. Kevin, he didn't quite get in the mischief that you and Michael got in. Michael got in the most mischief, hiding behind the log pile over the neighbors. And we thought with 3 swimming pools in the area, one completely unfenced and turned green from algae, we
Are you
thought
talking
he'd drown.
about Olympia?
This was in Longview. We thought he had drowned.
You had that many swimming pools in our area?
Yeah, yeah. There was one up. Was it the little handicapped girl? Did they have a swimming pool in their backyard? There were 3.
Yeah.
And then there was one right over in the next neighborhood, but easily accessed. And then there was one right through the gate when you go through Fuller. What is their name? Next, don't go sleep.
None.
By Nita's neighbor, Nita, and then the other